This is the case of a patient with Brugada syndrome and implanted with a single lead ICD. She was hospitalized for an episode of syncope. You can see here the episode diagnosed VF corresponding to this syncope. Initially there is a normal rhythm and then an acceleration with a very fast ventricular rhythm inside the VF zone, initial detection of the episode of VF, a shock, maximal amplitude shock is delivered with a return to the initial rhythm. When you look at the EGM, this is clearly an episode of ventricular fibrillation with a very fast and irregular ventricular rate. Now, if you look at the markers, some cycles are classified inside the VF zone, but some cycles are slower and are classified VS without undersensing. So this example highlights the interest of a probabilistic counter inside the VF zone, because if some cycles are outside, you don't want that these cycles reset the counter to zero. So in Medtronic devices, in the VF zone, this is a probabilistic count and you require at least 75 cycles classified in the VF zone. In this patient was the programming for the initial detection of the ventricular fibrillation, which is here. This counter required at least 24 out of the 32 last cycles inside the VF zone. This is the case here, so there is an initial detection of ventricular fibrillation. Once there has been the detection of the episode of ventricular fibrillation, there is the charge of the capacitors. All the cycles are then classified VS even if they are very fast. At the end of the charge and the confirmation, a shock is delivered with a return to sinus rhythm, and after 8 consecutive cycles classified VS, there is the end of the episode and the marker termination. So this tracing highlights the interest of a probabilistic counter in the VF zone. This is the case in Medtronic devices. We have seen in the 2 last examples that you cannot require consecutive cycles in the VF zone because, like in this example, some cycles, even well detected, can be outside the VF zone, or like in the previous example, you can see sometimes undersensing during ventricular fibrillation.